Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and thank you for joining me for a review of the pens and inks that I used in December of 2023. Ooh, that was a mouthful. All right, so I did write a number of these dry or pretty close to dry, and I went ahead and cleaned out most of these. The one that still has December ink in it is my Estherbrook SD and Sea Glass, which is inked up with Diamine Season's Greetings. This is the pen and ink combination that I chose to use in the Hobonichi 5-year journal for this month. Each month I have a different pen and ink pairing that I use for the entire month, and so this one I did refill partway through, and I didn't do a full refill. You can see there's a little but I think if I were to guess, the ink level is somewhere around here. So I have enough to finish out the month in my 5-year, and I will use this pen to write out my thoughts. So I'm just going to start with the top and go down. Let me just rearrange these just a bit so I get this into a good angle for my writing. And I'm also going to take a sip of coffee. I am trying out the Chobani hazelnut creamer right now. I don't know why it took me such a long time to try it out. And this little page holder is also from Tina. It goes with this one, but thought I'd give this little tail a try and see how that did. All right. So let me just write review. All right, so the Twisp Eco Glow Green in a fine nib. It was inked up with Diamine Ink Vent All the Best, and this was day 25 for the 2021 ink vent. All the Best is a really nice kind of burgundy-ish wine red, so it's a deeper red, a little bit on the kind of browny rusty side, and it has a shimmer to it, and I really love this color. I love this ink. I remember last year really enjoying using it, and I continue to really enjoy using it. The Eco handled the shimmer, even with a fine nib, it handled the shimmer very well. It was a very even flow. And I can even quickly show, oh, and there's also, I wasn't seeing it when I was looking down here, but there's also this gold sheen to it. So there's an example. Very, very standard color, not, you know, no shading or things like that, but it does have a sheen and it does have a shimmer. And I'm already smudging. Ugh, okay. So this combination reminded me why I love Twispies. The fine Eco handled the shimmer like a champ. It was wonderfully reliable. So I really liked that pairing. I think should have left room over here, but we have the pen and the ink. So the pen was absolutely lovely. It was very comfortable to write with. Really not a lot of complaints, so I'm going to give that a 9. And the ink also really great. I'm just recalling as I'm talking this through. Let me just see if my recollection is accurate. No, I don't think it is. Okay. All right. So the ink, I'm going to go ahead and give a 10. All right. That is drying out as I'm just holding it in thin air, so I'm going to move it aside. So that is the Twisp Eco Glow Green. The next one is an Estherbrook SD in Petrified Forest with an extra fine nib. And I keep meaning to look this up because I think this might be an extra fine gold-plated nib, but I also could be very wrong. And I just cleaned this, so it's got a little moisture from being cleaned. The reason I say that is this nib writes exactly the same as the Ferris Wheel Press Estherbrook collaboration, their Nebulous Plume, and that one is a gold-plated nib. They're both an extra fine, but this writes exactly like that gold-plated nib, and it writes differently than this. I think it's rhodium nib, but a steel nib. So yeah, like I said, this was written dry. This was inked up with Diamine Ink Vent, the blue edition, which is 2019, and that's called Noel. And so the Noel ink is this really beautiful, it's a slightly brighter red, but in writing it looks very similar in base color to the Twisp Glow Green. It's just a different nib size, but they look very similar. It also has a gold sheen to it, and because of that sheen, which if you watch my channel, you know I'm just not necessarily a fan of sheens, it does do some smudging. So for example, right there. And it's difficult because when I look at it, that's the first place that my eye goes, is to that smudge. So I want to love it, but I don't. Oops. That's a tight tail. All right, so we're gonna just do a P and an I, and I will come back to that. The spacing is going to be off, so let me just write 1, 2. Okay. So this nib is an absolute joy to write with. It's, I'm going to say beautifully scratchy and consistent. The inks only negative is the sheen. which results in smudging. So the pen I'm going to give a 10, and the ink I'm going to give a 7. And I think last year when I used Noel, I had it in the Ferris Press brush pen, which has a fine nib, and it's it's juicier. It lays down more ink, and I think I enjoyed Noel a lot more in this pen than I did in the Petrified Forest. Okay, so next one is this pen, Estherbrook Estes in the sea glass with a fine nib. And this was inked up with Diamine Ink Vent, again, the blue edition, in a color called Season's Greetings. And so Season's Greetings, let me just show you a writing sample. I think I do have one right here. So this pen just wrote beautifully. This particular green, it is a very, very, very dark forest green, but you can see in some spots where I had some hand oils, and so the ink more sat on the page as opposed to soak in. It has a little, it has like a teal undercolor to it. So there is some shading that comes out occasionally, but then it has a red sheen to it. I will say this sheen did not bother me, but you can also see from this page right here that the sheen on the Season's Greetings is not as prevalent as the sheen on the next one, Garland. So that might be why I was okay with it. All right, so the third pen, and this nib is always buttery smooth. Yeah, love this nib. So I had a small amount of shading. And a small amount of sheen. The one thing kind of maybe downside of this ink is that it is so dark in the writing that it looks very black. You can't really tell that it's a green. So that would be my only negative. So this pen, I'm going to give a 10, and the ink, I'm going to give a 9, just because you can't really appreciate the green consistently. So that is the Estherbrook SD in Sea Glass. Can't put it away because I'm still using it. The next one is the Twisp Ecote in Royal Jade and Rose Gold, and this has a medium nib. So this I put my heavier shimmer in because I felt this medium nib could handle it, and it sure did. Let me grab a sample for you. So here is a sample of the Twisp Royal Jade in Garland. And man, this ink is beautiful. The only downside again is that sheen, but and I really want this ink with the sheen removed because I would be so intrigued at how it would come out, because it just has this beautiful turquoise undercolor with this really nice, not as dark of green as the Season's Greetings. And the shimmer actually was not evenly distributed, and I'm not surprised by that. I'm not mad about it. I had no illusions otherwise, but you can see right here all that beautiful blue shimmer, and then it's not really present in the writing. Let me see if I can find another sample. Right here. There was some smudging. So for example, right there and right here, but it's really a gorgeous color. And if I were to try right here to compare it to the Estherbrook Sea Glass, which was inked up with Season's Greetings, you can see that base green, it's slightly lighter in Garland, and I think that's a little bit more my style than the Season's Greetings. You can tell this is a green. It doesn't look like a black when you are looking at the page. Oh, see, I'm making a mess right there. You probably can't see that. Good. But you can see the dog hair. All right, so the fourth pen. The medium nib handled this ink perfectly. The ink is a gorgeous base color, and I would love to see it sheenless. So this pen again is a 10 and the ink is a 9. And we'll put that to the side. All right, so the next one, I only had, oh, I know, because I knew I had new pens coming, is the Ferris wheel press brush pen with a steel nib, and it is a fine nib. Their detailing and artwork is just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. This was inked up with Polar Glow, and last year I had Polar Glow in a Sailor medium fine, and so it was really, really nice to use it in this pen because it just is a juicier nib. The ink flows out heavier, faster, wetter, and really sits on that page. So let me grab, here is a writing sample. So with the Polar Glow, it is a very bright, punchy blue base and this somewhat overwhelming red sheen. But when you look at this page of writing, it is complex and layered and just beautiful. I really like this this ink, and it is something that I'm happy to have in my collection. I look forward to using it each December. I might try to use it a little bit more this year. We'll see. As I was planning for my January currently inked, I really hemmed and hawed over what inks I was going to use, and it was really interesting to kind of observe myself and my own thoughts as it came to ink choices. So I'm very excited for 2024, and whoopsie. Well, that's frustrating. Yeah, very excited for 2024. Very excited to see where my fountain pen and ink journey takes me as I refine my personal tastes and likes and things like that. Writing with this nib is pure joy. I mean, I love the nib on this, and I actually got the gold-plated brush pen from Ferris Wheel Press, and I enjoy the steel nib hands down over the gold-plated nib. So do not, if you're going to get the brush pen, don't, in my opinion, don't spend the extra money on the gold-plated nib. This nib is just absolutely buttery and smooth and lovely to write with. I think the only downside of this pen is the small body size. I'm so used to these kind of chunker pens that it's always taking a moment to adjust to this smaller body size. So the ink was complex and layered and beautiful to admire on the page. So I will give the ink a 9 just because, again, that sheening and the smudging will always be the bane of my experience with a sheening ink. And the pen I'm going to give a 9 just because of the width of the body. I'd love for Ferris Wheel Press to make a chunkier pen. All right, and the last one for this month, oh, I've got to clean out the cap, is this Navalar or Narwhal and Galen Leather Co. collaboration in Demonstrator Rose Gold. And this is with a medium nib. That nib I am getting to know. I had this pen with a fine nib and it broke, and so I did replace it because I love it, and I kept the fine nib unit. I'm going to likely switch out the nib unit to the fine because that nib I had really gotten to know and figured out the sweet spot, and the medium nib, I'm just having a hard time figuring out the angle to hold the pen to get a consistent ink flow. So let's see if I can, and apologies if the flipping is not your favorite. But here's a writing sample. I can see that my handwriting is inconsistent, and I know that a lot of that is because I'm trying to find that sweet spot to write with it. The shimmer was pretty good. Certainly there was inconsistencies, like on this page there's a good amount of shimmer, and on this page there's really not. There's a tiny little bit of red sheen to this ink, and then it looks like a black ink, but it is actually a blue-black base, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but in some of the edges of letters, or the, in some of the letters, you can see that the base is this blue-black, little bit of a grayish blue-black. Let's see if I have another. Yeah, and I also found I did not gravitate towards using that pen because of trying to get to know the nib. And I know it's in there because I did use its predecessor very frequently because of how much I enjoyed it. So I know that the enjoyment is there. So I had quite the struggle with finding comfort in my writing. The ink, oh, and I don't even know if I said the ink name. So it's inked up with Diamine Ink Vent 2021 Tempest, which I actually bought a bottle of this one. I ended up also getting this year 2 bottles of Ferris Wheel Press and Atlas Stationer's Atlas Iron Ore, and they are very similar in color. So I probably didn't need a bottle of Tempest, but it's fine. I love it. It's gorgeous. It has a gold sheen, or sorry, a gold shimmer. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. So this pen I'm going to give a 5. Oh goodness. But the ink I'm going to give a 10. Even though I'm saying it has the tiniest little bit of a red sheen, because it is the tiniest little bit, it doesn't bother me at all. So yeah, love that ink. Now I did acquire 2 pens this month. So the first one is the Twisp Cream and Rose Gold. And so this one is inked up. I do have this in my currently inked for January, so I'm gonna leave that to be a surprise, but if you want to take a guess, feel free. If you attend to my videos, you probably can guess correctly. So let's see, let's go ahead and write. All right, and that was, let's see if I can find. When did I get? So this arrived on December 8th. Okay. So I received a Twisp Eco, I think it's just the Eco, not an Ecote. Yeah, Eco in rose gold cream with a fine nib. And like all Twisbies, it is, well, in my experience, it is a very consistent writer. The fine puts down an adequate amount of ink, definitely more adequate if it's a non-shimmer ink. And then it's just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And just so you can see the cream color, I mean, obviously against the white paper, you can tell it's cream. This is the Ferris wheel press. This is an off-white color. And then my other new pen, look at this, is the Pelikan M600 in white and red stripe. But this is a bit more of a stark white, so you can see that difference right there. So this is, like I said, my other new pen. This was a Christmas gift, and it was normally $660, but that is nowhere near what I paid for it. So this was on sale for Black Friday. Nope. Yes, Black Friday as a, no, not Black Friday, sorry. In the beginning of December, this was placed on sale and was available through a pre-order. And so the sale price was $440, and then there was a 20% off, and then I was able to get another 10% off, and so this total price was brought down to $345, I think it was. And I had received notification on December 8th that my federal student loans were forgiven, and I had $240 set aside for my next federal student loan payment. And so I talked to my husband, and we were able to take that $240 plus $105 for what was budgeted for my Christmas gift and put it towards this. And so that's how this became part of my collection. I share all of that just so that it's really clear that this is not a price point that I am able to just buy or that my husband is able to just buy me. But it was through all of these series of discounts and sales and life events that made it possible. So there is that. So the other new pen, and again, I'm not going to write with that because it is in my currently inked rotation, but if you want to take a guess on what it's inked with, absolutely do. So this is a Pelikan M600. It's a special edition. White, red, and it has an extra fine nib. So those were my pen and inks for the month of December. Look at all those beautiful reds and greens. Ah, love it. All right, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, I appreciate the time that you spent with me, and I hope that you had a wonderful December. Feel free to share with me in the comments any pen and ink thoughts that you have, reflections from your past month, and I will see you in my next video, which will likely be my January currently inked. All right, bye.